Boo doo boo. Let's do this show. Here we go. We're doing things. Do this. Welcome to the Derek O'Shea Show. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to hang out with me. I appreciate you guys for joining me. Joe Rogan's in the news. Canada's in the news. The trucker convoy. Justin Trudeau, where is he at? Is he hiding? Gavin Newsom's in the news. And much, much more. But let's get into it on the Derek O'Shea Show. Welcome to the Derek O'Shea Show, where we discuss culture, news, politics, and more. Sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy the show. Be sure to tell your friends and family about the revolution. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Derek O'Shea Show. Thank you guys for taking time out of your day. Hang out with me. It means so much to me. If you don't mind sharing this with all your friends and family, let them know about the Derek O'Shea Show. Greatly appreciate it. If you want to support me, go to buymeacoffee.com/Derek O'Shea Show. I would also greatly appreciate that as well. Link is in the description below. Let's get into the news. Joe Rogan came out with and I just want to remind you, this is a live show. I never know what's going to actually happen. I don't have a team of producers, so you never know if I'm going to say something to get myself taken off air at any point. But I appreciate you guys for joining me for this ride. Let's get into this list. Joe Rogan came out, spoke back. I'm not going to get into it because a million people have already talked about it, and why would I just be another podcast like everyone else talking about what Joe Rogan did? But Joe Rogan came back out and said that, you know, there are some things I could probably do better, but all this stuff, but the controversy, I'm surprised he even addressed it, to be honest, because he usually is the kind of guy who's like, I don't care. I bet Spotify was like, you need to actually come out and say something. But that being said, I have some things I need to get off my chest regarding this whole Joe Rogan and Neil Young, and Joni Mitchell. Don't know who those people are because I'm 12 years old, but I have a list of people. Because apparently, this is how you become popular again. If people all forget about you, people don't know who you are, all you have to do is start talking about Joe Rogan. And then people are like, oh, I'll listen to you because you're talking about the person that everyone's talking about. So let's get into this. As I stand in solidarity with these people. Let's go down the list. I'm calling out Spotify. You must get rid of Ben Shapiro on your platform or me. Figure it out. I don't like him. He talks too fast. And if I try to listen to him, I got to put him on the slower speed. Boom. Roasted. Next. Matt Walsh. You went on Dr. Phil, and I don't like that. Dr. Phil makes me uncomfortable. Boom, roasted, get off the platform. Michael Knowles, I stand with Spotify to take you off the platform because your voice is silky smooth. It sounds like you smoke a lot of cigars, and I would like to have a cigar with you sometime. Boom, roasted, get off the platform. Next, Tim Pool. What is really going on at your compound? I urge Spotify to get you off the platform because I don't trust anyone with a compound like that. Boom, roasted. Candace Owens, what are you doing exactly? You're going on all these shows. You have the Candace Owens show. All the liberals say you're not actually black. So what are you? Boom, roasted. Next, Steven Crowder. I stand with everyone calling Steven Crowder to be taken off the platform because you're not even born in America. Boom, roasted. Ted Cruz, I want you off the Spotify platform because you didn't ever finish your trip to Cancun. Boom, roasted. Hodge Twins, I'm just going down the list. Hodge Twins, I'm calling for you to be off Spotify platform because your gains are going down, bros. You guys are looking weak. Boom, roasted. Next, Buck Sexton. I'm calling for you to be taken off Spotify platform because you have sex in your name and that makes me uncomfortable. Boom, roasted. Next, Michael Malice. I'm calling for you to be taken off Spotify's platform with your welcome podcast. You sucked on Cash Cab. Boom, roasted. Neurotic. You're just a bunch of nerds. You seem like really nice guys, and I want you off the platform. Boom, roasted. And that's who I'm calling out. Because apparently this is how you become popular and everyone to talk about you. If Spotify doesn't take off, Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, Tim Pool, Candace Owens, Steven Crowder, Ted Cruz, Hodge Twins, Buck Sexton, Michael Malice, and Neurotic, if you don't take off these people, then I'm not going to upload to your platform. I said it. I'm out here making a stand for censorship because it's important for all of us to be on the same message together. Take these people off the platform or I'm going to lose my freaking cool. Let's get into the real news. Why don't we, huh? Let's do it.
You crazy as hell.
I know, Medea. I appreciate you for saying that, girl. All right. Justin Trudeau is in the news for calling out. Justin Trudeau is in the news for calling out the trucker convoy. Because if you can't actually have an argument or actually have a discussion with somebody, all you have to do is try to make assumptions based on a couple of people and try to discredit their entire argument by, throwing in the one video of the one guy walking around with a Nazi flag. That's how you discredit somebody. You just get some weirdo walking around with a Nazi flag and all of a sudden the entire cause is debunked. So brave and beautiful. That is Justin Trudeau. Daily Wire writes, say what? Justin Trudeau claims Canadians are disgusted over the truck convoy because I don't know about you, but I've seen nothing but applause, excitement, and people honking and lining up. They're trying to discredit this whole movement based on a few people, and also they're talking about one statue, which I've seen this video of the statue, and I've seen them, washing the statue off. Stuff like that. Absolutely disgusting. But here's a video of the trucker convoy right now.
It's history in the making, and I have a question for you.
This is as loud as I can get it, sorry.
What are you going to do with it? What do we do with this? We ignited the entire...
Look at them. They're destroying everything.
It's about telling people you're not alone. If you feel like you're alone in your idea that something's wrong and what's happening to your neighbors,
love it.
You are not alone.
But Justin Trudeau came out and said a few things. He talked about COVID-19, and he's tweeted out saying things like, I know this pandemic is frustrating. It's frustrating after 2 years we're not done fighting COVID-19. But over the past few days, Canadians have, and this is, I love when the minute they start throwing in emotional words, emotional context, is when you're kind of, you're not actually having a conversation. You're just trying to pull on people's hearts. And this is the part of a live show. Okay. And I got rid of it. God. It's not every day your show goes perfect to plan. But let me pull up this website one more time. See, this is a part I don't have anybody helping me out. Okay. I know this pandemic is frustrating. It's frustrating that after 2 years, we're not done fighting. But over the last few days, Canadians have been shocked and frankly disgusted by the behavior of some people protesting at our nation's capital. I don't know if you guys remember when Justin Trudeau was actually backing some of the Black Lives Matter protests that was actually being destructive. But we forget about that because you know what was worse? January 6th. The worst time ever. Justin Trudeau goes on to a tweet. I want to be very clear. We're not intimidated. I want to be very clear. We're not intimidated by those who hurl abuse at small business workers and steal food from the homeless. We won't give in to those who fly racist flags. Exactly. And, lots of news agencies are actually trying to figure out who this person was walking around with a Nazi flag because as always, when someone tries to take away from the actual message and make it more about themselves or who is this person? Of course, they're wearing a mask. Of course, they don't want to be seen. And of course, they're walking around in a flag and everyone's yelling, get out of here. You're ruining our cause. But as always, the media latches onto that because they go, oh, you know what? This fits my narrative. A bunch of anti-mandate people, a.k.a. what they want to call anti-mandate, turns into anti-vax somehow. Because that's where the narrative and that's where their mind goes. We're not intimidated by those who hurl abuse at small business workers and steal food from the homeless. We won't give in to those who fly racist flags. We won't cave in to those who engage in vandalism. And the vandalism is somebody put a mask on another statue in the park. Because I spent a whole summer of real vandalism on statues and people actually tearing down statues. But, you know, you put a mask on a statue and all of a sudden your vandalism is catastrophized. Dishonor memory of our veterans. And of course, that's supposed to pull on your heartstrings as well, as if, you know, the people in our statues that were taken down weren't at all heroes. There is no place in Canada, this is another tweet from Justin, no place in Canada for this behavior. So to those responsible, it needs to stop. And to those who join the convoy but are uncomfortable with the symbols of hatred and division on display. And those who join the convoy, good Lord, but are uncomfortable with the symbols of hatred and division on display, be courageous and speak out. Do not stand for or with intolerance and hate. They already have, Justin, but as always, in your bunker, you didn't see that. And here, just look at these far-right, neo-Nazi, racist, fringe minority trucker protesters cleaning up after the protest. This is them cleaning up after the protest. Disgusting. And I'm gonna be honest. I've been to a lot of protests where, at the end of it, it was disgusting with litter. And these are like environmental protests. So it's good to see that these people are taking that very seriously and they're not afraid. Honk if you love Canada's Sikh community who make up a solid portion of truckers in Canada. I love that. Trudeau is a real terrorist. Thank you for the truckers. Jordan Peterson, an assault to truth, says hiding man. Freedom Convoy. Justin Trudeau actually just tested positive. Is that coincidence? I don't know. I don't want to just make up a conspiracy theory, but the idea that he went into hiding and then all of a sudden immediately tested positive seems like an easy way to not be able to come out and speak to people and speak from your porch. This morning, I tested positive for COVID-19. I'm feeling fine and will continue to work remotely this week while following public health guidelines. I need to drink some water. Why? Okay. Can somebody explain this to me? Because I've always wondered this. Why do people feel the need to, as soon as they get tested for COVID-19, they immediately think and tell everyone to get vaccinated? It's such a weird turn of events. Got my booster shot this morning to everyone out there who gotten their shots, the healthcare workers, blah, blah, blah. So Justin Trudeau is in the mud and he's hiding right now instead of actually having a conversation. Because that, you know, he's a product of so much of what our culture is about anyways, that instead of actually meeting with these people, having a conversation, you know, engaging on a platform maybe or in a safe space where no one's going to hurt you or whatever, it's just like the whole Joe Rogan thing. Instead of actually having a conversation with these people or, you know, presenting facts and stuff like that, you just want to dismiss them. You want to discredit them in any capacity. You immediately attack some kind of moral fiber about this person or who they are instead of actually having a conversation or instead of pleading your case of why you think these mandates need to be put in place. But when people push back and say this is more about power than about health, your logic goes there every time. These people are in a freaking truck by themselves. Who are they endangering? But you're not allowed to say that because, well, that's dangerous. I love the backlash of the tweets too. What does this guy say?
What's it been down here? Nothing but good. People are super good. The truckers have been
This is
having
a cop.
good time. They've been getting their point across, and you know what? It's a beautiful city that we're in, and they can't ignore all of this, right? Absolutely. No, thank you very much. Ladies.
Wow, a cop says, shout out to this guy wearing a Mario hat. A cop says, this has been civil, it's been great, it's been good, people need to hear their voice. And, you know, as always, the politician is wanting to make it seem like it's out of control. It's incredible. It's incredible when something doesn't fit your own a politician's own narrative, or goes against something they believe, or makes or discredits them in some kind of capacity. They immediately attack these people's character, as opposed to having a conversation, as always. Because it's just like Joe Rogan. You got to silence them. You can't. Their rebuttal will be too strong for you to handle. So instead of actually having a conversation, you need to silence them. And here's them right here, just laying destruction to the city by standing and speaking. Just who at this point, who trusts so much of what politicians and corporate media says when you have like clear videos of like this, and you're like, okay, they don't seem like they're that nuts. But here's the statue. All right, this is what I love. Here's the statue that was defaced and all this stuff that Justin Trudeau's talking about. It looks completely fine.
CCTV show this.
Nothing is wrong with it. In fact, these people are cleaning it. But again, you're the fringe person for wanting to not be for mandates. These people aren't saying they aren't for the vaccine. They're saying we don't want to be forced to do anything by a politician. This should be a conversation between a doctor. Why is this a fringe idea? This is so dumb. But this is also government healthcare in a lot of ways. Your body, your choice. And I think this is really awesome. Here is an exchange between politicians in Canada. I wish our politicians were more like this, because what a fun way to have a discussion back and forth. And they're talking about Justin Trudeau right now. So as always, instead of talking about the situation, let's hear from the horse's mouth, and then we'll get to the icing on the cake of Justin Trudeau back in the day before he was elected. Of course, like a typical politician, he completely changed his mind on so many things. But let's listen to this, because I think this is telling. And then I got some more extra stuff coming down the pipe.
Just because the Prime Minister dressed up in racist costumes so many times he can't remember them all doesn't mean every single Liberal is a racist. Just because...
Oh, God, I need that in my freaking veins. I get so tired. Politicians, corporate media, constantly just taking one situation, one person, one fringe person in a group, and then making it to be the entire narrative of the entire story, as opposed to, you know, in a room full of 10 people, there's going to be 2 to 3 people that are nuts, okay? And that's just in every organization. To say that it's like only on one side or only on the other side is also dumb. So just nothing is that simplified and nothing is that over the top. So let's keep listening.
The Prime Minister had tried to help a corporation avoid prosecution after it stole from some of Africa's poorest people. Doesn't mean all Liberals are racist. Just because about a half dozen Liberal MPs who are racial minorities have complained about his treatment of them does not mean that all Liberals are racist. Exactly. That is guilt by association. Why doesn't the Prime Minister opt instead for personal responsibility?
Yeah.
Honorable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker,
This is way more fun than our politics.
I've been clear in all of my comments that I respect the honorable colleagues on the other side, just as I believe they respect the colleagues that are on this side and the work that we do and the people that we are. There are times in our political discourse where we see things that are abhorrent. And all I would ask is that we equally call it out. When I saw swastikas on the street, when I saw what had happened, it's time to move on. And what I would ask is, instead of trying to inflame the situation, let us de-escalate the situation. Let us work together to find a way to stop the lockdown that is happening of this city, so that citizens can move forward with their lives and any legitimate grievances can be fairly heard.
I love that. A lot of that is like, if commit to the mandates and then your life will be fine. Follow my rules and then you'll be free.
The honourable member for Carleton.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I agree. We should always call out evil symbols and the individuals who are individually responsible for putting them up. I remember a January 2018 event where the Prime Minister stared straight at a swastika and, instead of condemning it, said, "Thank you for coming, sir." We on this side condemn evil symbols.
Got him. Okay. Keep listening.
Whenever they are used. I do respect that member. I just wish his government would respect the thousands of people who are fighting for their livelihoods right now, who are trying to do the best to get this country back on track.
The honourable government House Leader.
We are in a time of global crisis, a time when
gets
so
pretty
many
heated,
are
by the
being
way.
Adversely affected by this pandemic, and our hearts go out to every one of them. The way in which we have discourse for each other will define this moment for all of us. And to those that are peacefully protesting, I would ask that their point has been made. It's time to go home and do it a different way. That continuing to lock down this city and continuing to do what's happening, it is deeply disturbing for Canadians to see the way that this city and our symbols are being treated. And I would ask the Conservatives to also join with us to ask that they go home, and let's do this responsibly. Let's have
Yeah, do it responsibly. Just follow what I say and do what I say, and then you can have your freedoms back. Stop protesting. Stop being so civil and cleaning and honking and stuff. God. But, you know.
responsible dialogue. I respect the member opposite. Let's do this the right way.
The honourable member for Carleton.
Well, the problem is they've shown no respect for the people. This country right now is like a raw nerve, and the Prime Minister is jumping up and down on it again and again with his inflammatory rhetoric. We're talking about people who have 14-year-old kids that are suicidal after 2 years of lockdowns. I just spoke to a waitress whose business was wiped out by lockdowns. I'm talking to truckers who've been serving food on our plates throughout this, and these are the very people, honest, hardworking, shirt off your back type of people that this Prime Minister keeps attacking.
Woo! Man, that get me so fired up. Put that junk in my lungs, baby. Put it in my veins. Let's keep listening.
The honourable government House Leader.
The honourable.
We'll wait to start the time. Okay, very good. Please go.
Mr. Speaker, again, I encourage the member to just think about, as he's talking about de-escalating and having civil discourse, his tone and how he's approaching this issue. This is a time that is incredibly delicate. We are in a moment where there is a raw nerve that is being touched. How we talk to each other, Mr. Speaker, how we deal with one another.
I'm going to interrupt the Honourable Government House Leader and just wait till everything calms down a moment. Now let him start from the top, because I'm sorry, I didn't have a chance to hear it all, and I'm sure the Honourable Member from Carleton asked a question he wanted an answer to, and he wants to hear it, and we're just not hearing anything because of the noise. The Honourable Government House Leader, please proceed.
I have an instinct, and that instinct is that Canadians expect us today, when they're seeing what's happened over this weekend, to watch the dialogue in this chamber be as respectful as possible, for us to dial down our rhetoric and our language, for us to...
There's nothing better than somebody asking for respect after you just disrespected everyone that is on the other side of the aisle. Like, hey, you're fighting back. I don't like that. I don't like that. You're doing what I did to you. I don't like that.
engage in one another and find an off-ramp from the escalation that has occurred, because this is not healthy. In a healthy democracy, we have respectful debates that don't involve some of the things that we've seen. And all I'm asking for is for us to engage in a constructive way. So if we could attempt in this place, in this hour, to be equal to that, I hope that we can move forward on that basis, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Carleton.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And Mr. Speaker, I was out at an overpass as the truckers went by. And what I saw were cheerful, patriotic, optimistic Canadians who want their freedom back and want their livelihoods back. And they're standing up for their fellow Canadians, the 60% of families who fear they can't feed themselves. The 28-year-old kid living in mom's basement because he can't afford a home. The small businessman wiped out by endless lockdowns by incompetent politicians. These are the people that are standing up and fighting for their livelihoods and their freedom. Why won't the government finally stand with them?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Fundamental difference, Mr. Speaker, I have a fundamental difference, and that is that I don't believe that my enemy is across the aisle. I believe that our enemy is this pandemic, and that our enemy is ending this pandemic and getting everybody to get vaccinated and to move forward in a way where the concerns that he's talking about, being affected by a global crisis, means that they are supported. This is a time of collective trauma. It requires us to be compassionate, to work with another, and understand that our common enemy is the virus and not one another.
There you go. There you go. Don't actually address the issue. Just talk around it. But what an interesting exchange. I like the back and forth. I wish our politics was more like that, where they could just go back and forth and stuff like that. What's my next video? Okay. Here is Justin Trudeau at his finest. All right. Prepare your hearts and minds for this, because I think this is deeply important. Let's listen to it.
This country is a country of openness, of respect, of compassion, of the rule of law, of the rights of the individuals, of freedom. Freedom from fear, freedom from crime, freedom to love who you want and not be judged for it, freedom to do what you want with your body. This country is a country of openness, of respect.
You're free to do anything you want as long as you do what I say. I love that kind of freedom, don't you? Thoughts on the... My entire thoughts on the whole trucker convoy thing is that they have the equal rights to protest. The media is constantly trying to make it to be... Thoughts on the trucker convoy is that the media, politicians are trying to make it out to be this fringe, crazy ideology and discredit them by talking about a couple of fringe people who hasn't even been reported if they're a part or they're standing for the same thing. It could be just crazy individuals joining a protest and engaging in acts of idiocy by bringing things like a Nazi flag and putting a face mask on statues. It's not that insane. And not only that, they cleaned it afterwards. But of course the media is discrediting these people. Of course the politicians are discrediting these people. And of course they're trying to make it out to be this fringe, crazy ideology, as opposed to just, people that don't want a politician telling them what to do with their bodies. And instead, maybe they're doctors or healthcare providers or, trusted source, whatever they deem, because as Justin Trudeau says here, Canada is about freedom and blah, 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 blah. You're free to do whatever you want as long as you do what I say is not freedom. That's the kind of freedom you get with kids, not adults. And a lot of us are adults and we want to be treated as such. But during this whole pandemic, this whole COVID-19, a lot of us have felt like the media, politicians, maybe neighbors have started talking to other people like they're not and actually thinking, deep thinking or thoughtful adults, but treating them like children who need to be corralled and put in these little spaces and allowed to say these things and allowed to do these things. And you can do that and you can do this, but make sure you put this on, you make sure you do that. And then you can go to your restaurant. Then you could, be free and do whatever you want. You follow my rules and then you'll be free. And people are tired of that. People want to make the choice for themselves. And I don't think that's a crazy idea to say that, I don't want Joe Biden or Justin Trudeau telling me what to put in my body. I want to have that conversation with my freaking doctor. Because that's what all of us should have been doing from the start. That's what all of us should have always done. And that's what we do anyways. I have something wrong with my body. I feel weird about something. I'm going to go talk to my doctor. I'm not going to go talk to my mayor. I'm not going to go talk to my governor. But that is a fringe idea. As always, don't you just love corporate media? Next story, which this story I just love. This whole Russia-Ukraine thing is, I can't tell if it's heating up or slowing down, as Russia has been saying, hey, you guys are the ones escalating it, and everyone's saying, no, actually, Russia, you're the one escalating it. And of course, this is the whole propaganda back and forth. And you decide what side you actually want to believe. But this whole idea that we're going to slap a bunch of sanctions on Russia and Russia is going to go, oh no, and then just like stop is ridiculous. Sanctions don't work. In fact, it's like making an enemy more angry. Not going to. We need your oil, though. God. All right, next story. I think this story I just love. Whoopi Goldberg is in heat as she continues to rise in the rankings as a crazy person. Last week, it was about Clarence Thomas and Amy Coney Barrett on The View, talking about how Amy Coney Barrett isn't actually a woman because she has conservative ideologies, and Clarence Thomas is not an actual black man because he also has conservative ideology. They like to dehumanize people, and somehow that is okay to talk about on this, nation public show. But, we got to get rid of Joe Rogan. God, it's just like he just gets all these experts on that aren't really, or just like different kind of experts that don't follow in line, and I don't like that. We need to get rid of him. But people like Whoopi Goldberg is okay, but she said this on about the Holocaust. Let's listen to good old Whoopi and see what she has to say. Ready?
Well, also, if you're going to do this, then let's be truthful about it, because the Holocaust isn't about race. No, it's not about race.
It's about a different race.
But it's not about race. It's not about race.
What is it about?
Because it's about man's inhumanity to man. That's what it's about.
But it's about white supremacy. It's about
it's not about
ideal race.
But these are two white groups of people.
Well,
how do we
do white groups?
See them as white people.
But you're missing the point. You're missing the point. The minute you turn it into race, it goes down this alley. Let's talk about it.
Right. The Nazis weren't like putting a bunch of propaganda about Jews at all, and they weren't like specifically targeting Jews. They were just like these random other white people, or these light colored people, these people need to be taken down. They don't have blue. I just don't understand where we're going with this, but let's keep listening.
For what it is, it's how people treat each other. It's a problem. It doesn't matter if you're black or white, because black, white, Jews, everybody eats each other. So if you're uncomfortable, if you hear about mouse, should you be worried? Should your child say, oh my God, I
love the
wonder
music.
if
They're like,
me.
shut it down,
No,
Whoopi.
that's not what they're going to say. They're going to say, I don't want to be like that.
Well, hopefully.
I want to be cool.
Yeah.
And
Most kids, they don't want to be cruel.
No, they don't.
And we're living in an era where people are comparing vaccine cards to the yellow stars, where people are comparing vaccinations to what.
Yes, because we compare today in our time to past events, because then people have a better image of maybe where that logic could take us.
And Frank went through. Yeah. So it is necessary for kids to learn about the Holocaust.
Learn about man's inhumanity to man, however it exposes itself. I have to cut you off.
I just want to say that Mouse was banned and it flew to top 20 of Amazon's rules last week, charts.
Yes.
People, the more you ban it, the more we want to read it.
Oh, I love that last part she said. What'd she say?
Yes.
People, the more you ban it, the more we want to read it.
That's right. The more you keep banning these people, the more we want to read it. You want to get rid of Joe Rogan? We'll find a way to find it. Oh, Whoopi. I mean, is there more to say about Whoopi about this? It's just so silly. I mean, who takes these people seriously? I genuinely want to know who is like, I think Whoopi is a philosopher and orator of our time who should be watched very carefully for her deep-rooted message. It's hard to even critique these people sometimes because they're just silly. They're just silly human beings. I like the end. She said, the more you censor, the more you get rid of, was that Joe Behart? The more we want to read it, and that's 100% spot on. The more you try to censor something, like Alex Jones. I never watched Alex Jones ever until people were like, you got to get him off the platform. He's disgusting. He's a terrible human being. Whatever you want to say about Alex Jones, he's the minute he was taken off is the minute I was like, who is this person? Why do I feel like I need to know who this person is? And then I looked him up and watched the show, and I was just like, okay, yeah. I don't know. It's just like when I think of like the explicit thing you slap on. I know I'm going in a different direction, but that thing where the explicit thing you would put on CDs growing up as a kid, where you would listen to hip hop and stuff like that. The CDs that had the explicit warning is the CDs me as a kid always wanted growing up. So the more you want to censor, the more, if you take away a book out of a school or something like that, especially kids and people like myself, we're going to be drawn to that, and we're going to go, why are you trying to silence this idea, silence this way of speaking? It's going to make me want to listen and watch it. I don't know about you, but that's certainly how I am. It's like, don't tell me how to think or feel. I'm going to read this or watch this person, and I will make the judgment for myself because I'm an adult. All right. This next story. This story right here is pretty freaking damning. The fact that El Salvador's president is speaking up, Mr. Bitcoin himself. El Salvador's president looks at crumbling U.S. cities, wonders if there's a deliberate plan to destroy America. On social media, El Salvador President Nayib Bukele mourned the state of American cities. And this is his tweet. Is there a deliberate plan to destroy the United States from within? Why are authorities and some of the media not even commenting on these things? Why are they letting these beautiful cities rot? El Salvador's president is looking at us and going, what the heck is going on? As Jen Psaki just recently kind of mocked the idea that crime is spiking in major cities, which in fact it is. Because these DAs are letting these criminals off on easy charges constantly instead of, putting them in jail. He's commenting on that video of Michael Rappaport in the Rite Aid, and he's like, come on, man, this guy stole a bunch of stuff. He's walking out like he's Gucci or something. It's like, dude, you're like 50 years old. Just stop talking like that. Stop being, you weird. Okay, wait, here it is. Yo. Yo. Yo.
don't fucking give a fuck. Yo, I just watched this fucking dude.
Sorry for the language.
Look at this fucking guy. Walk in the fucking Rite Aid, this fucking guy right here,
Sorry.
take a whole bunch of shit.
But he is like super liberal, and he's always talking crap about conservatives, and the fact that he's like waking up to this, which we've been talking about for forever, about how they just don't care. They don't care about the cities. They don't care about the crime. They don't care about what is happening in some of these beautiful cities like Chicago. 20 people shot just last weekend. An 8-year-old kid was murdered, and Lori Lightfoot is putting out pictures about to get vaccinated. You can win some money. Your city has major pressing issues in regards to gang violence, but you have always turned a blind eye to it as people steal from stores, steal from small businesses, and murder people on the street daily. When I lived in Chicago, there were certain areas, certain neighborhoods at certain times at night that you just didn't go down. You didn't want to be a part of that. You didn't want to find your way there. And if you did, you were like, oh, crap. And it's crazy that an El Salvador president is speaking up about America's crime right now. Other people around the world are looking at it like, what is going on? Seriously. I mean, I watched this documentary the other day about like countries in Asia and stuff like that, and people were just out and about in like downtown. It was called Midnight in Asia on Netflix, and I really enjoyed that series for the most part until it got really political. Just talk to me about food and dancing and DJs. Don't talk to me about your political stances. I'm like, whatever. But it was amazing to watch how people would just walk down the street willy-nilly as if like there's no crime. Whereas like in Chicago and at night, you wouldn't do that. New York, probably similar right now. LA, there are places in LA you're not going to walk down in the middle of the night. We have a huge crime problem in our major cities as politicians are more worried about not hurting people's feelings and being empathetic towards actual criminals rather than the victims themselves. But I freaking digress. Let me know your thoughts on this because I'm genuinely curious about like a president of another country, especially someone like El Salvador, who used to be one of the myrtle cap, like a terrible place to be. That's completely changed around. And people are looking at places like Baltimore here, Chicago, New York, LA, San Francisco, some of these major cities, and they're like, I don't want to go there. America's dangerous. And of course, the politicians, people in corporate media want to say it's because it's easier to attain a gun than it is to vote. Some idiotic statement like that, which is completely not true. Or I've seen it's easier to buy a gun than getting a car. No. There's a background check. But I digress. We have a huge issue. Huge problem. And people are more concerned about defunding the police movement was a huge issue. And who wants to be a cop in this juncture of life? It's like everything you do is getting scrutinized, even in the most heightened state, emotional state, where you face life and death constantly, where you have to make a split decision. Will you make a lot of stupid decisions? Absolutely. And so people are scared to go around and do this in life for good reasons, but also you forced a lot of cops to, impose and process mask mandates. They're totally interesting. Let me know your thoughts on a president of El Salvador commenting on this, because I just think that's insane. Go to the next story. Michael Rappaport is such a silly joke. Okay. Here we go. Gavin Newsom was found at the game last night on Sunday night without a mask taking a picture. Of course, he was in, the press box very first class high dining institute because it's rules for me and not for thee. But let's listen to his reasoning, taking a picture with, thank God, Magic Johnson put out the picture so we could all see and comment on it, which is hilarious. Here he is. Oh, and here's a picture of him right here, chilling without a mask on, as he says, I just took it off for the picture. Here's him with the mask on. Here's him talking with him without a mask on. But yeah, it's just for the picture. But let's listen to his reasoning, because as always with these politicians, when they get caught, they'll politician their way out of the situation to make it about probably some fringe conspiracy theory.
As it relates to, you're correct, I was very judicious yesterday, very judicious, and you'll see the photo that I did take where Magic was kind enough, generous enough to ask me for a photograph, and in my left hand's the mask, and I took a photo. The rest of the time I wore it, as we all should, not when I had a glass of water or a thing, and I encourage everybody else to do so.
Yeah, not when he had a glass of water, like right here with his hand in his pocket, with no glass of water. But yeah, but not with a glass of water. Okay.
And that's it.
Yeah, that's it. So shut up.
Fox 11, I know you probably...
It's unreal that Californians vote for this guy, but I digress. Fool me once, shame on you.
I want to make that the last word on this, but given your history with this issue, should you maybe have reconsidered taking the mask off for the photo, for the image, the message that it might send?
Or get rid of the the mandate,
I was
whatever.
trying to be gracious, and I made a I was trying to be gracious and took the mask off for a brief second, but
yeah, he just took the mask off for a brief second. Here again, here's him just enjoying a brief second. Just a brief second, It's just a second.
No, I encourage people to continue to wear them. I want to just say this, because it's important. Today was an important day. Down to 14.5% positivity, which is a very encouraging sign. Remarkable that 14.5% positivity would be considered an encouraging sign. But we are seeing a significant decline in the number of confirmed cases of Omicron.
There you go. Nothing like a good politician to completely change the subject about something else other than yourself. But I digress. Rules for thee, but not for me. But keep voting me in, because this is what you want, right? You want a king. Put me in a box, Gavin Newsom. I don't want to think for myself or choose my own actions. Thanks. All right. I just love the fact that that this is a thing, that he's pictured right there. It's so beautiful. Okay. Here we go. Jen Psaki's asked a question about the Olympics and what's happening in China. Let's listen.
One on the Olympics. Does the president have a stand on?
First of all, before we get into this, it's always incredible to me that Fox News, CNBC, MSNBC, CNN, they never talk about China. They never talk about China in a negative light very often, especially they don't bring it up very often. They're talking about other things. We'll talk about AOC not wearing a mask in Florida, but they don't talk about China. And the one news agency that constantly has stories about some of the incredible, disgusting behavior that happens in China towards Christians, Muslims, the list goes on. It always takes a British person to ask. It's always the BBC. I don't know if some kind of guilt out of Hong Kong or whatever, but it's incredible how our news media is like, well, we're not allowed to ask these kind of questions. Let's both listen.
One on the Olympics. Does the president have a stand on this debate of whether athletes should be able to express political or human rights or anything non-sporting views at the Olympics? I know the Olympics has got some rules, but the Chinese came out today with some pretty tough statements warning people not to step out of line. What would the president's reaction be if an American athlete gets up on that stand and says, does something?
I think we spoke to this last summer and conveyed a support for freedom of speech of individuals.
One on the Olympics.
I don't want to speak too deeply about it because We don't want to be in trouble with China. I love how our corporations, our politicians are so quick to speak about some of the things America does, but when it comes to China, we're happy to use their child labor, their slave labor. We're happy to do whatever it can, do whatever we need to do in order to continue to trade with them, buy from them, have them work for us. So it's, if you want a deep rabbit hole to go into, look at some of the incredibly horrific humanitarian issues that happen in China daily. As China pushes back and talks about the Black Lives Matter movement and saying America has a huge problem, and the reason we don't know too much about China is because they're better at suppressing and censoring speech than we are currently. But, you know, we have a whole party of people that want to censor Joe Rogan because, God, he's basically China. I mean, he's basically the Uyghur Muslims. It's just so silly. But I just wish our news talked more about this. Interesting. Let's look. Okay. Now we're just in the part of the show where everything's icing on the cake, where I find out what you find out. Comments on the protest. Oh. Nothing more than I like hearing. Who's this? Christia Freeland comments on the protests in Ottawa. That fringe minority.
Okay. Well, thank you for the question. And look, I am speaking to you from Ottawa today, and I was in the House of Commons today. It was important for me to be there in person. But I live in Toronto, and I was home in Toronto over the weekend, and I was reading the newspapers.
Just tell us how you feel.
And we saw that terrible picture of the Terry Fox statue desecrated.
With a mask on it.
I have to tell you, my kids were just shocked.
You crazy as hell.
Like all, Canadian young people, they've grown up with Terry Fox as a hero and the Terry Fox runs. And they couldn't believe that someone would do that. And I am sure that I am one of just many, many, many parents.
Why is it always with these politicians a story about their kids that you feel like, I don't think that's true, but okay, I'll keep listening. I showed my kids the things that are happening. They were outraged.
The country whose kids looked at that picture in the newspaper and were horrified. And so, my first reaction is just to say things have been happening in Ottawa over the weekend, which are just unacceptable. Desecration of national monuments and national symbols, people brandishing totally horrifying symbols of hatred and intolerance, including the swastika.
Talking about that one person that is not identified and they try to
unacceptable.
figure out who it is. In fact, there are publications saying we'll pay you thousands of dollars to identify this one person. But yeah, of course, a politician is using that one instance to make it seem like it's the whole message of these people, to discredit them in their entirety, as opposed to actually talking about maybe why these people are protesting, but I digress.
And it's really important for all Canadian leaders across the country to be very, very clear and to speak out and say, this is unacceptable. This is not the Canada who we want to be. And I really profoundly believe, and I know that this is not what Canada is. So let me just start by saying,
this is not what Canada is compliant and does whatever we say. Canadians don't speak up for themselves and don't have a mind for themselves. Okay? All in line. That's what they want to say. But they say it in a different way to make you feel good on the inside. Oh, man. Look, these people are just cleaning the statue, Gavin Newsom. Gotta love it. Okay. Here we go. We get in some Justin Trudeau comments.
What do you want to see the security forces on Parliament Hill and in downtown Ottawa do about the situation?
Well, first of all, I'd like to make sure that people are safe, first and foremost, that small businesses, restaurants in Ottawa can get back to work, that citizens can go
Every
to
time I
their
hear this guy
jobs, that
talk, it just sounds so
parliamentarians
fake.
can continue to do the important work of serving Canadians, of upholding our democracy. Yes, there is a right to protest. There is a right to make your voices heard loudly and clearly. There is not a right to shut down our democracy or our democratic processes. There is not a right to abuse,
Unless you
intimidate,
are
and
with Black Lives
harass
Matter.
your fellow citizens
God, of course.
who are trying to go about their business, trying to live their lives, and not necessarily in agreement with what you are doing.
Okay. Doing right now, remembering who's choosing. Oh, here we go. Justin Trudeau has some comments for the truckers.
And to Canadians at home, watching in disgust and disbelief at this behavior, wondering.
Disgust and disbelief of their honking. They're ever so honking. Driving their gas, diesel guzzling trucks across the country. Favor for their freedoms. Actually disgusting. We Canadians believe in falling in line.
How this could have happened in our nation's capital after everything we've been through together. This is not the story of our pandemic, of our country, of our people.
Reading so dramatically.
Canada is strong because you are strong.
Yes. That's a fail. God. Can't stand this guy. He just sounds so fake. Canadians, how did you guys elect this guy? But at the same time, how did we elect Joe Biden? I don't know. Okay. Oh, yes. Trudeau, okay. Trudeau is asked whether it's fair to focus on the behavior of a minority of protesters and paint the rest with the brush, of course. That's what all politicians do.
Will say that
but
it's
we'll talk
a
about
small
it.
minority of people in this protest who are causing trouble. So is it fair to focus in on the obviously terrible behavior of some and paint all protesters with that brush?
I think,
come on, man.
Obviously, the right to free expression, the right to assembly, the right to make your displeasure known in a democracy is extraordinarily important and needs to be heeded.
As long as you follow the right narrative.
But there have been many, many protests over the past years that I've seen, that I've been part of, that I've watched from a distance on Parliament Hill and elsewhere, where people come together angry about a certain thing, wanting something else to change, that don't see the level.
Sounds like he's making up a book report
hateful rhetoric,
as he's been asked.
Swastikas, of abuse towards their fellow citizens. There is always a right to protest peacefully that I and others will defend fully as part of this democracy. There is not a right to incite violence, to perform acts of violence, or to spew hatred. And I think anyone who is part of this group who is disgusted by what the folks protesting alongside are doing needs to step up and take responsibility.
That's right. a good question about, are you going to stop painting these people with a broad brush? And at the same time, he goes back to do it again. When the narrative isn't working, keep digging that hole, because eventually you'll get to China. All right. Oh, gosh.
There's a whole lot of illegal movement. You know, there's the gangs we're working on.
Gangs. All right. You know. Oh. Don't you love this? Morning Joe likes to call the truckers a cult.
The capital of Canada to a standstill. Dozens of trucks and other vehicles could be seen blocking the downtown area of Ottawa as protests.
Oh, it's towards the end.
Their enemy is themselves, because they've become what they hated. They've become what they mocked. And now they're taking food from soup kitchens because they're so put upon for being asked to do what they've been asked to do, required to do their entire lives.
Coming up.
It's a cult.
There it is. Right. Wanting to have your own freedom to choose what to do with your own body is a cult. Thank you, Morning Joe, for your sound. Perfect. Incredible logic.
You crazy as hell.
Thanks, Medea. I just get so tired of them. I get tired of these people. Oh, here's the... Here's the guy that walked around with the Nazi flag. The one person. Of course he's masked up and no one knows who he is. But, you know, let's paint the entire people that are protesting these mandates with this person. Because he represents all of them. And not even in his truck. Maybe he doesn't drive a truck. Probably drives a Prius. Let me know your thoughts on that. All right. Well, I appreciate every one of you guys. Thank you guys so much for joining my show. It means a lot to me. And I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day. Be sure to share this with all your friends and family and let them know about the Derek O'Shea Show. Appreciate you. Bye.